Greetings and welcome. Today we delve into a battlefield mystery that challenged everything the Germans thought they knew about armored warfare during World War II. At dawn on September 19, 1944, near the fog-shrouded landscape of Lorraine, an encounter unfolded that would shake the foundations of military strategy forever. Imagine a German Panzer brigade losing 3 tanks in just 5 minutes to an enemy they couldn't see, firing from a distance of 400 to 800 meters. Then hearing an eerie, aircraft-like whine from tanks that seemed to move faster than any tracked vehicle in history. Think about a tank destroyer capable of reaching 55 miles per hour, faster than a sports car, able to turn its turret 360 degrees in just 24 seconds, and crossing 400 meters in less time than it takes to swing a turret even 90 degrees. What kind of weapon could outmaneuver and outpace traditional tanks, rendering decades of armored doctrine obsolete? And how did the Allies, with their radically different approach, develop such a game-changing vehicle? Could it be that the Germans underestimated American innovation? Did they dismiss these fast-moving, lightly armored vehicles as mere overconfidence? Until a brutal clash at Anzio revealed the terrifying reality. How did the American strategy of speed, surprise, and agility, embodied by the M18 Hellcat, turn conventional tank warfare on its head? In this video, we will trace the origins of this revolutionary concept, uncover the shocking design principles behind the fastest tank destroyer of the war, and reveal the profound implications it had on armored combat. Get ready, because what you're about to learn will rewrite your understanding of World War II's most pivotal battles. The most astonishing truth begins right now. On the morning of September 19th, in the year 1944, precisely at 6:15 in the morning, near the small locality of Ericourt nestled within the expansive landscape of eastern France, an intense fog hung low and thick over the countryside of Lorraine. This veil of mist obscured the surroundings, creating an almost surreal atmosphere of haziness and ambiguity as units of the 113th Panzer Brigade, equipped with their formidable Panther tanks, pressed forward steadily toward their designated objectives. According to the after-action report meticulously compiled by the brigade and subsequently submitted to the headquarters of the 5th Panzer Army, the lead elements of the attack encountered their first significant engagement at approximately 6:20 in the morning. It was at this moment that they came across enemy tank destroyers of an unknown and enigmatic type. These enemy vehicles demonstrated an extraordinary level of mobility, executing rapid maneuvers and engaging the German tanks from distances ranging between 400 and 800 meters. Before the German crews could properly respond or reposition their turrets to retaliate, the enemy units quickly dislodged from their positions, making themselves scarce once more. The initial encounter resulted in the loss of 3 Panther tanks within a span of just 5 minutes, a bitter reminder of the deadly and unpredictable nature of modern armored warfare. Amid the oppressive fog, the German crews operating their tanks could hear an unfamiliar and almost otherworldly sound emanating from the American vehicles. It was a high-pitched engine whine, reminiscent of a distant aircraft, but unlike anything they had previously heard coming from tanks. As low silhouettes of the American tank destroyers gradually materialized from the mist, they fired rapid salvos of fire at the German tanks and then disappeared swiftly before the German gunners could properly traverse their turrets to target the incoming threats. Each such attack was swift, lasting less than 20 seconds from start to finish, yet leaving a lasting impression of the enemy's lethal efficiency. Across that battlefield on that cold, foggy morning, 39 German tanks belonging to the 113th Panzer Brigade, commanded with strategic authority by Colonel Erich Fonsendorf, were about to uncover a startling and terrifying truth. They were about to realize that the Americans had developed a tank destroyer capable of reaching astonishing speeds of up to 55 miles per hour, faster than any tracked armored vehicle in existence at that time. This revelation challenged the traditional German doctrine, which assumed that all tank destroyers would be slow, heavily armored fortresses akin to their own Jagd Panthers. In stark contrast, the American M18 Hellcat had been engineered based on an entirely different set of principles. Its design prioritized blazing speed as an extension of armor, mobility as a key element of survival, and agility as the core of lethality on the battlefield. The implications for armored combat were profound. implying that the very mathematics that govern tank engagement and tactics would need to be fundamentally rewritten. For example, while a Panther's turret typically required between 18 and 60 seconds to complete a full rotation, depending on the engine's RPM, the M18 Hellcat was equipped with a hydraulic turret capable of rotating a full 360 degrees in merely 24 seconds, regardless of the engine's speed or revolutions. At the blistering speed of 55 miles per hour, the M18 could traverse 400 meters in less time than it took a Tiger tank's turret to swing even 90 degrees. Such speed allowed the American tank destroyer to strike swiftly and retreat before the enemy even had a chance to respond effectively. This revolutionary concept of armored warfare took shape during December of 2021, when Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Davis Bruce stood before a classified briefing at the War Department. The devastating success of the German blitzkrieg tactics, an innovative combination of speed, surprise, and concentrated force, had shattered conventional military thinking. Within just 35 days, Poland had fallen. In less than 6 weeks, France, with the largest standing army in the world at the time, had capitulated. The panzer divisions of the Wehrmacht had demonstrated conclusively that mobility and the ability to concentrate forces rapidly could overcome static defenses of any kind. Recognizing this, Bruce, a cavalry officer by training who deeply understood the value of speed, maneuver, and swift strike, proposed a radical new approach. Instead of merely building tanks that matched German vehicles in weight and firepower, he envisioned creating vehicles that could hunt tanks with speed, surprise, and agility, much like cavalry units had once hunted infantry in previous eras. In this pursuit, the tank destroyer force would operate under a simple yet powerful motto: seek, strike, destroy. The United States Ordnance Department responded swiftly to this strategic insight by issuing requirements for a high-velocity tank destroyer in December of the same year. Over the course of the following year, these specifications underwent rapid evolution. Initially, they called for a vehicle equipped with a 37mm gun, but subsequent revisions increased this to 57mm, then to 75mm, and finally settled on the battlefield of World War II, the German military intelligence, upon discovering the development of American tank destroyers, initially dismissed these new vehicles as nothing more than typical American naivety and overconfidence. Historically, the doctrines of the Wehrmacht, honed through 4 grueling years of combat experience, had consistently shown that successful tank destroyers needed to be heavily armored and equipped with formidable guns, much like the renowned German Panther tanks, which were armed with powerful 88mm guns and weighed around 46 tons. To the German strategists, the idea that the Americans would produce a relatively lightweight vehicle, weighing only about 17.7 tons, with armor no thicker than 25mm, seemed utterly unrealistic and militarily absurd. They believed such a design would be easily penetrated and unable to withstand direct hits from their own weapons or even from other small arms fire. This initial underestimation persisted until a significant encounter on May the 23rd, in the year of 1944, during the breakout from the Anzio beachhead. It was here that the German Hermann Göring Panzer Division faced their first close-up encounter with these American tank destroyers, the M18 Hellcat, during fierce fighting around the area. The division's daily combat report to the 14th Panzer Corps made a startling note. Enemy employs a new type of tank destroyer, vehicle speed estimated at 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. The report detailed that 2 of these vehicles had been destroyed before they withdrew, noting that return fire from the Americans was ineffective because of the tank's rapid movement. German crews found these vehicles to be unlike anything documented in their recognition manuals. Low profile, racing across the battlefield at extraordinary speeds, comparable more to wheeled reconnaissance cars than traditional tracked vehicles with 67mm guns. Their movement was so swift and unpredictable that it overwhelmed the German crews who were unaccustomed to such agility. Initially, the reports were dismissed in Berlin as unconfirmed and likely exaggerated, with the high command suspecting that the seasoned crews under combat stress might be overestimating enemy capabilities. However, by September of 1944, these assumptions were fundamentally shattered as the full extent of the American technological breakthrough became indisputably clear. During this period, the United States Third Army, under General Patton, made a rapid advance through Lorraine, pushing German defensive lines to their limits and causing widespread disarray within the German ranks. Hitler, personally alarmed by the rapid progress and threat posed by the Americans, issued orders for a counteroffensive to recapture Nancy and to destroy Patton's iconic spearhead. In response, the German 5th Panzer Army, under the command of General Hasso von Manteuffel, mobilized its best available units, including newly formed brigades equipped with the latest Panther tanks, specifically the 111th and 113th Panzer Brigades, all outfitted with freshly manufactured Panthers directly from the factory. Meanwhile, the 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion, attached to the 4th Armored Division's Combat Command A, had positioned their M18 around the strategic town of Arlon. At dawn on September the 19th, conditions were shrouded in heavy fog, but the German attack commenced nonetheless. Lieutenant Edwin Leiper's platoon of M18 Hellcats struck with devastating effect, demonstrating remarkable precision and agility. According to the after-action reports from the 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion, Lieutenant Leiper's platoon engaged enemy armor at ranges between 400 and 800 yards. Employing the tactics of shoot and scoot, firing swiftly and then relocating, they managed to destroy 15 German tanks in just about 30 minutes of fierce combat. Sergeant Henry R. Hartmann's M18, positioned on the platoon's flank, achieved extraordinary success in this engagement. His gunner systematically knocked out 6 Panthers in rapid succession, each time displacing to a new firing position before the German tanks could return fire. Hartmann's prowess on the battlefield was later recognized with the awarding of the Distinguished Service Cross, one of the military's highest decorations for valor. However, the losses suffered by the 113th Panzer Brigade were catastrophic. German divisional records indicate that during the engagement near Arlon, the enemy's tank destroyers demonstrated an unprecedented level of mobility and resilience. Their vehicles could reach speeds exceeding 80 kilometers per hour, an astonishing feat for tracked vehicles at that time. The German forces reported losing 39 tanks and damaging 11 others, while estimating that the enemy's losses were only between 3 and 4 vehicles, the disparity underscoring the destructive efficiency of the American units. When the Germans finally captured an intact M18 Hellcat near the town of Metz in November of 1944, their weapons testing officers conducted a thorough, detailed examination of the vehicle. This technical inspection would reveal insights into the true nature of the American design that had so effectively confounded German expectations and technological advancements. The incident was brought to the attention of the Inspector General of the Panzer Forces, revealing detailed specifications that fundamentally challenged prevailing assumptions about tank destroyer design and capabilities. These verified figures shed new light on the performance and features of the vehicle, prompting a reevaluation of strategic and technical doctrines. The weight of this tank destroyer was measured at approximately 17.7 metric tons, a stark contrast to its rival, the Panther, which tipped the scales at nearly 44.8 tons. Its maximum speed had been confirmed through testing on a dedicated track to be about 88.5 kilometers per hour, surpassing the Panther's top speed of roughly 46 kilometers per hour. The powertrain was equipped with a right-mounted R975C4 radial engine, rated at around 400 horsepower, which played a critical role in its mobility. When considering the later production versions, the power-to-weight ratio stood at approximately 22.6 horsepower per ton, a figure that highlighted its high mobility potential. In comparison, the Panther achieved a ratio of about 15.6 horsepower per ton, while the Tiger, utilizing the Fu engine, managed only around 12.8 horsepower per ton, emphasizing the lighter, more agile design philosophy of this particular vehicle. The turret was capable of a full 360-degree traverse within a mere 24 seconds, thanks to a hydraulically powered system that enabled rapid aiming and target acquisition, essential in fast-paced combat scenarios. Armor protection, while not extensive, was sufficient for specific roles. Maximum frontal armor reaching about 25 millimeters, with the turret front being slightly thicker at 13 millimeters and the hull sides designed to minimize weight and maximize speed. The main armament consisted of either the 76 millimeter M1A1 or M1A2 cannon, providing a formidable punch against enemy armor and fortifications. The transmission employed a torque-matic, fully automatic system with 3 forward speeds, allowing smooth and rapid acceleration without manual clutching. A German military report summarized the vehicle's performance succinctly, noting that it achieved its capabilities primarily through an extreme design philosophy that prioritized mobility over armor protection. The report clarified that the engine was of an aircraft-type, air-cooled radial design, which contributed to the vehicle's high efficiency and rapid response. The automatic transmission further enhanced maneuverability by eliminating the need for clutch operation, thereby enabling the crew to focus entirely on tactical positioning and engagement. The effectiveness of this tank destroyer was primarily dependent on 2 critical factors: its mobility and the skill of its crew. The complex mathematical analysis confirmed that the M18's advantages, particularly its speed and rapid turret traverse, were irrefutable, providing a significant tactical edge. Notably, the German forces observed that turret traverse speeds varied significantly depending on engine RPM, with early Panther models capable of rotating at about 6 degrees per second, taking around 60 seconds for a full rotation. Later Panther versions could reach speeds of up to 19 degrees per second at 2,000 RPM, reducing the rotation time to approximately 19 seconds. The WWII, with speeds ranging from 15 to 24 degrees per second, could accomplish a full turn in anywhere from 15 to 24 seconds, depending on engine conditions. In contrast, the M18's hydraulic turret traverse system maintained a consistent rotation speed of about 15 degrees per second regardless of engine RPM, providing a critical advantage when engaging multiple targets or tracking swift-moving enemies. At its top speed of around 55 miles per hour, the M18 could cover 400 meters in approximately 16 seconds, extend to approximately 800 meters in about 33 seconds, and cross a 1,000-meter battlefield in roughly 41 seconds. Conversely, a Panther, when tracking a moving target at varying speeds, would require between 30 to 60 seconds just to complete a half-turn of its turret, illustrating the M18's superior agility and responsiveness in combat. This revolutionary employment of the M18 significantly transformed American anti-tank tactics. The combat manual of the 407th Tank Destroyer Battalion, revised after the Battle of Ericourt, explicitly emphasized the importance of mobility over direct firepower exchange. The recommended engagement strategy involved firing 3 to 5 rounds from concealed positions, then immediately relocating a minimum of 200 yards to avoid counterattack, followed by re-engaging from a different position and angle. The doctrine strongly advised never to remain stationary for more than 60 seconds when under enemy observation. Such a shoot-and-scoot tactic proved devastatingly effective against German armored units, which were trained for methodical, deliberate, long-range engagements. The German crews unfamiliar with or untrained in rapid repositioning struggled to adapt to opponents who refused to stand and fight in traditional stand-up confrontations. On December 19th, in the year 1944, during the 3rd day of the German Ardennes offensive, Hitler's last-ditch effort, the 2nd Panzer Division was leading the attack toward Antwerp. They approached a critical crossroads at Noville, held by elements of the 33rd Infantry Division's Team de Sobry and elements of the in conditions shrouded in thick fog. The tactical use of rapid displacement between firing positions created an illusion of a much larger and more formidable defensive force. This clever maneuvering was instrumental in the effective destruction of a significant number of enemy tanks. Specifically, 24 of their armored vehicles were confirmed to be destroyed under these circumstances. Out of the total 18 Ms involved in the engagement, only a single vehicle was lost, and that was due to artillery fire rather than direct combat. The tactics employed by the Hellcat units were remarkably simple in design, but proved to be highly effective in practice. Their modus operandi involved firing 2 or 3 well-aimed rounds before immediately executing a full-speed reverse movement into the fog. This rapid retreat ensured that, by the time German tanks had turned their turrets toward the muzzle flashes to locate the attackers, the M18s had already repositioned themselves approximately 200 to 300 yards away, attacking from a completely different angle. Such swift and unpredictable movements made it exceedingly difficult for the German armored units to achieve a successful hit. The War Diary of the 2nd Panzer Division recorded their encounter at Noville, noting, "We faced strong resistance from tank destroyers operating in fog. These enemy vehicles, highly mobile and capable of rapid displacement, used their speed to avoid effective engagement due to their swift retreat. The attack was temporarily halted while reinforcements arrived." This pause in the offensive, lasting around 48 hours, proved to be a pivotal delay. It allowed the Allied forces, particularly the 1001st Airborne Division, to reinforce Bastonia's defenses. This reinforcement was crucial in enabling them to hold and secure a vital crossroads, which was a strategic objective in the broader campaign. By November of 1944, as the tide of the war shifted, German military commanders found themselves increasingly desperate to develop countermeasures against the elusive and fast-moving M18 tank destroyers. General Hasso von Manteuffel, commanding the 5th Panzer Army, issued detailed tactical guidance aimed at countering this threat. The report confirmed the presence of enemy M18s, noting their exceptional road speeds of well over 80 kilometers per hour and cross-country capabilities exceeding 40 kilometers per hour. Recognizing these formidable speeds, the general's directives called for modifications to standard engagement procedures. Rather than attempting to track the M18s by turret traverse, which proved futile given their rapid displacement, the German forces were instructed to pre-position their turrets along probable routes of displacement, employ infantry units equipped with Panzerfäuste on the flanks, and utilize artillery to suppress suspected positions. Pursuit strategies, which traditionally might seem logical, were to be avoided altogether because the M18s could always outrun the pursuing units. Despite these tactical adaptations, they were largely ineffective. The M18's speed advantage was simply too overwhelming. Furthermore, German crews found it difficult to adapt quickly because their training, emphasizing precise and deliberate gunnery, was incompatible with the rapid response and high-speed tactics employed by the M18s. This mismatch in doctrines and training further reduced their chances of success against such fast-moving targets. The production of the M18 Hellcat was carried out by the Buick Motor Division, which manufactured a total of 257 units between July of 1943 and October of 1944. The peak production occurred in November of 1943, when a total of 267 vehicles were completed. Originally, the contract called for the production of nearly 9,886 of these tank destroyers. However, as the war drew to a close and the tactical doctrines surrounding tank destroyers evolved, the production targets were scaled back. The cost of each M18 was approximately $55,230 in 1943 dollars, a figure reflecting the expense associated with its specialized engine and transmission systems. Despite these costs, the M18 remained a mass-producible vehicle thanks to the extensive use of standard American automotive manufacturing techniques. In comparison, the German Panther tank, which was considered one of the most formidable opponents, cost roughly 117,100 marks and required considerably longer to produce due to its complex final drive and transmission systems. The initial design of the M18 prioritized mass production, employing components that could be readily assembled using existing automotive parts and manufacturing methods. Its power plant, a Wright R975 radial engine, was already in production for aircraft and other vehicles, facilitating efficient mass manufacturing. The vehicle's torque transmission system eliminated the need for complicated driver training, simplifying operations for crews. The open-topped turret design not only made manufacturing easier, but also allowed for better visibility and rapid crew access. Wherever possible, standard automotive components were integrated into the overall design, further streamlining production processes. Recognizing the unique operational demands of the M18, the Tank Destroyer Training Center at Camp Hood, Texas, developed specialized training programs tailored specifically for these vehicles and their crews. Unlike traditional tank training that focused on slow, deliberate maneuvers, M18 crews were trained to excel in high. During brief pauses on the battlefield, the M18 tank destroyer's platform was carefully stabilized to enable gunners to acquire targets swiftly and execute accurate shots. The training regimen for M18 gunners placed a strong emphasis on rapid target identification and firing while the vehicle was in motion, a significant departure from the more traditional, deliberate approach employed by German gunners who were trained to make precise, long-range shots with patience and meticulousness. In contrast, the crews of the M18 learned to prioritize speed and responsiveness, focusing on engaging targets at moderate distances with the understanding that their first shot hit probability might be lower than that of more deliberate firing tactics. This approach aligned with the broader tactical philosophy of the vehicle, which valued quick, mobile response over deliberate, sustained accuracy. Commander training within the M18 units further developed skills related to battlefield awareness, rapid decision-making, and seamless coordination with other units operating in tandem. Commanders were trained to think strategically, several steps ahead, always planning their subsequent 2 or 3 potential firing positions before engaging a target. This proactive planning was crucial for maintaining the vehicle's mobility and effectiveness during combat, ensuring that the unit could adapt swiftly to changing battlefield circumstances. The psychological profiles of M18 crews differed notably from those of crews operating traditional heavy tanks. Recruiters sought men who were comfortable with taking risks, capable of making quick, sometimes instinctive decisions, and who preferred agility and speed over the psychological comfort provided by heavy armor and titanic firepower. One of the most glaring vulnerabilities of the M18 was its armor protection, which was exceedingly thin and rendered it highly susceptible to enemy fire. The turret's front armor maxed out at only 25 millimeters, while the sides of the hull offered a mere 13 millimeters of protection. Such light armor made the vehicle vulnerable to nearly every type of German anti-tank weapon, whether it was 20-millimeter anti-aircraft guns up close, which could easily penetrate the hull, or 37-millimeter anti-tank guns at any range, capable of damaging or destroying the vehicle with well-aimed fire. Additionally, the M18 could be hit by infantry weapons, artillery fragments, or even heavy machine gun fire when exposed to enemy infantry at close quarters, situations that arose frequently given its role on the battlefield. This critical weakness dictated strict operational procedures, emphasizing that the vehicle should never remain stationary under enemy observation for extended periods. Operators were instructed to avoid urban combat scenarios where enemy forces could negate the vehicle's speed advantage through confined spaces, which limited maneuverability. Instead, the M18's tactics required maintaining a minimum distance of at least 500 meters from enemy infantry, utilizing terrain features to mask movements continuously, and coordinating closely with infantry units to suppress enemy anti-tank threats. Crews developed an almost instinctive awareness of their surroundings, constantly scanning for potential threats and escape routes to maximize their survival chances. By the end of the war, the recorded combat achievements of battalions equipped with the M18 reflected their effectiveness. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion verified a kill count of 106 enemy tanks, the 603rd Battalion scored 92, the 69th Battalion 70, and the 705th Battalion 89. The 85th Battalion accounted for 51 tanks. Overall, there were a total of 540 M18 vehicles actively engaged in combat by March of the year 1945. Of these, approximately 216 vehicles were lost, indicating a significant attrition rate, but also demonstrating the difficulty of balancing their formidable performance with their vulnerability. The kill-to-loss ratio across the European theater was roughly 2.3 to 1, showing that for every vehicle lost, the battalion destroyed more than twice that number of enemy tanks. The typical engagement range averaged about 650 meters, with each encounter lasting approximately 2 minutes and 14 seconds. While this kill-to-loss ratio was respectable, it fell short of the high expectations set before the war, which envisioned the M18 as a dominant tank destroyer, capable of decimating enemy armor at longer ranges with near impunity. Interestingly, despite its design and intended role, the M18 spent roughly 70% of its combat time providing infantry support rather than actively hunting for enemy tanks. This deviation from the original tank destroyer doctrine, which focused on massing large numbers of vehicles to confront enemy armored assaults directly, proved to be a significant strategic lesson. The fundamental assumption that enemy heavy armor would attack in large, concentrated formations was demonstrated to be largely inaccurate in practice. Instead, the M18's mobility enabled it to perform a variety of tactical roles, especially in different theaters such as the Italian campaign. Here in the mountainous terrain characterized by narrow roads and limited maneuvering space, the M18's agility proved invaluable. Despite the restrictions posed by the terrain, the Hellcat's quick redeployment capabilities allowed units to shift rapidly between threatened sectors, especially along mountain passes and difficult routes where heavier vehicles struggled to navigate effectively. During the fighting along the Gothic Line, battalions operating the M18 would often race toward the arrival of counter-battery fire signified a pivotal moment on the battlefield. German troops in Italy, who had grown accustomed to the slow, often ponderous movements of Allied forces navigating the challenging and rugged terrain, were frequently caught off guard by the rapid response capabilities of their adversaries equipped with the M18 tank destroyers. An internal German operational report explicitly highlighted this surprising agility, noting that the enemy's tank destroyers demonstrated a remarkable ability to quickly concentrate their firepower at threatened points on the battlefield. Their ability to swiftly redeploy and reposition prevented the Germans from effectively implementing counter-battery measures, as the speed and flexibility of the M18S rendered traditional tactics less effective. The 79th Tank Destroyer Battalion, which was originally formed to serve in the European theater, later brought the M18 to the Pacific battlefield, where it played a notable role in the campaign against Japanese forces in the Philippines. In this campaign, the Japanese armor was minimal, and thus the M18's primary functions shifted away from traditional anti-tank roles towards bunker busting and providing crucial support to infantry units. The open turret of the vehicle, however, proved to be nearly fatal when faced with the Japanese infantry tactics, which often involve close-quarters assaults and the use of grenades and satchel charges. To address this vulnerability, crews aboard the M18 improvised by welding overhead covers and attaching chicken wire screens around the turret to better defend against incoming grenades and explosive charges. Despite the inherent dangers, the speed of the M18 allowed its crews to respond rapidly to infiltration attempts by Japanese forces. Nevertheless, the dense jungle terrain frequently negated the vehicle's mobility advantages, making tactical deployment a complex challenge. The M18 was a marvel of innovation, integrating several revolutionary design features that set new standards in armored vehicle development. One such feature was the torque-o-matic transmission, an automatic transmission developed by General Motors that eliminated the need for manual clutching. This system automatically shifted through 3 forward speeds based on the vehicle's speed and load, freeing the driver from the burdens of gear selection and allowing full concentration on maneuvering, an especially critical advantage during high-speed operations. The vehicle also boasted a torsion bar suspension, capable of providing 14 inches of wheel travel, which enabled sustained high-speed movement over rough and uneven terrain. This suspension system absorbs shocks and impacts that would have otherwise compromised vehicles with traditional leaf spring suspensions, thereby enhancing durability and operational effectiveness in varied combat environments. Powering the M18 was the R975 radial engine, a 9-cylinder, air-cooled power plant celebrated for its exceptional power-to-weight ratio. Early production models, designated C1, generated around 350 horsepower, while later variants, such as the C4, increased output to approximately 400 horsepower. The air cooling system eliminated the vulnerability posed by radiators and coolant systems, simplifying maintenance and reducing the risk of mechanical failure under combat conditions. The turret of the M18 was traversed hydraulically, powered by an electric motor that drove a hydraulic pump. This system delivered a consistent 15 degrees per second of turret movement, regardless of the engine speed or vehicle motion, providing a significant tactical advantage over the Germans' manual traverse systems. This technological leap allowed for faster target acquisition and more effective fire control during engagements. The combat record of the M18 profoundly influenced subsequent developments in armored vehicle design after the war. Although the tank destroyer doctrine itself was eventually abandoned, leading to the disbandment of the dedicated tank destroyer forces in November of 1945, the lessons learned from the Hellcat's performance resonated around the world. The demonstration that mobility could serve as a viable substitute for thick armor struck a chord internationally, prompting various nations to develop their own agile, lightly armored vehicles. The Soviet Union, for instance, developed the PT-76 light amphibious tank and later produced the BMP infantry fighting vehicle, both emphasizing speed and versatility on the battlefield. Britain created the Combat Vehicle Reconnaissance Track Series, prioritizing rapid deployment and reconnaissance capabilities. France innovated with the AMX-13, a light tank featuring an automatic loader to cut weight and improve speed. Germany, which had previously relied on heavy armor during World War II, shifted towards the Leopard 1 main battle tank, which prioritized mobility over heavy armor, a complete reversal of previous tactical doctrines. Modern wheeled tank destroyers and armored vehicles, such as the Italian Centauro, the Japanese Type 16, and the American M1128 mobile gun system are conceptual descendants of the M18, embodying the philosophy of accepting certain vulnerabilities in exchange for strategic and tactical mobility. One might wonder, given Germany's long-standing reputation for tactical innovation and sophisticated armored warfare doctrine, why they were less effective in countering the M18's swift and flexible tactics. Several factors contributed to this difficulty, notably doctrinal rigidity. German tank training placed a strong emphasis on deliberate, long-range engagements and the traditional principles of armored combat. This approach, while effective against more conventional foes, proved less adaptable against the fast, responsive tactics employed during World War II. The development and deployment of the M18 Hellcat marked a significant turning point in armored warfare, fundamentally altering the way battles were fought and strategies were conceived. This vehicle's design and operational philosophy centered heavily around speed, mobility, and tactical agility, attributes that, when executed effectively, gave the Hellcat a decisive edge over many enemy tactics. However, despite the extensive training and meticulous efforts invested in mastering precise gunnery techniques over the years, these skills proved largely ineffective against the rapidly moving and unpredictable targets that the Hellcat was often assigned to pursue. This discrepancy can largely be attributed to the inherent technical limitations of the German tanks it faced. German turret traverse systems, which depended on the engine's RPM, were comparatively sluggish and inconsistent, especially when the engine was idling or running at low speeds. In contrast, the M18's hydraulic turret traverse mechanism operated smoothly and with unwavering consistency, regardless of engine speed, rendering German tanks nearly helpless when the Hellcat attempted to flank or outmaneuver them. This technological disparity had profound psychological repercussions. German tank crews who had previously operated with a sense of invincibility suddenly found themselves vulnerable. Their tanks, which had once been formidable opponents, became easy prey when they could no longer react swiftly or accurately to the agile American vehicles. The abrupt shift from being the hunters to becoming the hunted inflicted a significant psychological blow, undermining morale and instilling a sense of vulnerability that was previously absent. Moreover, the Germans faced compounded difficulties due to communication disruptions. Their tactical radio systems, already strained by the Allied use of jamming techniques, struggled to maintain effective coordination, especially when facing the rapid fluid maneuvers of M18 platoons. This inability to communicate swiftly and accurately further diminished their capacity to respond cohesively to the unpredictable threats posed by these fast-moving vehicles. Veterans of the M18, interviewed after the war by the United States Army's Military History Institute, consistently highlighted one aspect as crucial to their survivability: speed. Staff Sergeant Vernon Miller, who served with the 85th Tank Destroyer Battalion, famously summarized their battle doctrine simply but effectively, stating, "We live by 3 rules. Shoot fast, move fast, think fast. If you did all 3, you went home. If you failed at any one, you didn't." His point underscored how central rapidity and decisiveness were in their operational philosophy. Technical Sergeant John Patterson of the 6003rd Tank Destroyer Battalion reinforced this, explaining that the Hellcat's purpose was not to engage in fair fights, but rather to dominate through swift, unexpected strikes made from angles their enemies could not anticipate, and then disengage before the enemy could mount a counterattack. Private First Class Robert Chen, of the 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion, vividly recalled the confidence that came with operating the M18. Every time I climbed into our Hellcat, I knew I was sitting in a tin can, but it was a tin can that could run 55 miles per hour. For Chen and countless others, this remarkable speed often meant the difference between life and death, allowing crews to outrun even the most persistent threats or evade enemy countermeasures. The comprehensive operational metrics of the M18 illustrate a complex portrait of its capabilities. Its maximum road speed reached approximately 55 miles per hour, or about 88.5 kilometers per hour, a velocity that was exceptional for armored vehicles of that era. On rough cross-country terrain, its speed decreased to roughly 26 miles per hour, or 42 kilometers per hour. The vehicle could accelerate from 0 to 30 miles per hour, about 48 kilometers per hour, in just 11 seconds, enabling rapid engagements and withdrawals. With a range of approximately 150 miles, equivalent to about 241 kilometers, on a 75-gallon fuel tank, the Hellcat could sustain swift operations over considerable distances. Its ground pressure was remarkably low, at roughly 10.5 pounds per square inch, lighter than many trucks, which enhanced its ability to traverse soft or uneven terrain with ease. When examining combat performance, the statistics reveal a vehicle that excelled in several key areas, but also bore the limitations of its light armor. On average, each M18 destroyed approximately 2.4 enemy tanks, demonstrating its effectiveness in thinning enemy ranks. Its mean operational lifespan in combat was around 67 days, reflecting a combination of tactical opportunities, crew survivability, and vehicle durability. The mechanical reliability of the Hellcat was notably high. It could travel about 200 miles, roughly 321 kilometers, between major maintenance sessions. Importantly, when the vehicle was destroyed, the crew's survival rate was approximately 73%, a testament to the vehicle's speed and the crew's ability to abandon it swiftly when necessary. These metrics reveal an interplay of strengths and vulnerabilities. The high crew survival rate was largely attributable to the vehicle's exceptional mobility, which empowered personnel to escape even in the face of destruction. Conversely, the relatively brief combat survival time, the most groundbreaking and innovative combat vehicles in history, represent the very pinnacle of military ingenuity, born out of the formidable capabilities of American industry, coupled with a remarkable streak of tactical creativity. These vehicles didn't merely follow existing doctrines. They fundamentally challenged and reshaped the very assumptions that had long governed armored warfare. For instance, German tank crews, prized for their discipline, precision, and reliance on heavy armor and firepower, found themselves confronting a stark reality. The traditional rules of engagement no longer applied when faced with these revolutionary machines. The American tank destroyer, known as the Hellcat, exemplifies this paradigm shift in warfare. Its top speed of 55 miles per hour was not just a technical detail, it was a radical redefinition of what armored combat could be. Such velocity was a breakthrough that German tactical doctrines struggled to accommodate, as they were built around the premise that armor and firepower were the key to dominance. The Hellcat's remarkable speed meant that engagement strategies had to be reconsidered entirely. The old assumptions regarding positional advantage and fire superiority no longer guaranteed victory. The M18 Hellcat demonstrated a profound truth. In warfare, survival does not always favor the physically strongest or the most heavily armed opponent. Instead, agility, adaptability, and rapid mobility could turn the tide of battle. In fact, the ability to swiftly reposition, evade return fire, and strike unexpectedly became potent tools for victory, especially against foes relying on heavier but less mobile vehicles. German tank crews, eyeing their carefully aimed shots, ricochet off the rapidly disappearing silhouettes of these American machines. Learn this lesson time and again on multiple fronts. Whether in the open fields of France, the icy woods of the Ardennes, or the intense final battles across German territory, they faced a relentless adversary whose speed neutralized their advantages. Today, when military historians analyze the significance of the M18 Hellcat, they recognize it as more than just an effective tank destroyer. It stands as a shining example of American military innovation at its most inventive. It exemplifies how identifying an adversary's strengths and systematically countering them through unconventional methods can lead to a revolutionary shift in combat strategy. The Germans, never fully understanding what hit them, only realized after the fact that the Hellcat's true power lay in its ability to outmaneuver and outpace traditional tactics and technology. Indeed, the Germans were largely unaware that these American vehicles could achieve such extraordinary speeds until they encountered them in the chaos of combat. This technological surprise, when combined with strategic ingenuity and rigorous crew training, resulted in a weapon system that transcended the sum of its mechanical parts. The Hellcat's speed, agility, and tactical flexibility proved to be its most formidable attributes, creating a dynamic that went beyond armor and gun caliber. Ultimately, the M18 Hellcat rewrote the fundamental mathematics of armored warfare. It demonstrated that protection was not solely achieved through thick armor, that firepower did not necessarily require the largest gun, and that battlefield dominance could be secured through exceptional mobility rather than sheer mass. Its ability to reach 55 miles per hour allowed it to outrun not only German tanks, but also the very doctrines that dictated how armored units should operate. In doing so, it challenged and ultimately changed the strategic thinking of the era. The legacy of the Hellcat remains alive in modern military thought, haunting contemporary doctrines of maneuver warfare. Every time a military planner chooses speed and agility over heavy protection, every time a military commander emphasizes rapid decision-making and swift action over methodical planning, and every time a weapons designer accepts some degree of vulnerability to gain superior performance, the lessons of the Hellcat echo strongly through the decades. The fundamental lesson is clear. Sometimes the best armor in combat is simply not being where the enemy expects you to be. German tank crews from the 113th Panzer Brigade, the 2nd Panzer Division, and countless other units learned this lesson through bitter experience, often paid for in blood and fire. They faced an elusive enemy that refused to fight on their terms, transforming their strengths into weaknesses and striking with terrifying speed and precision in ways that seemed almost ghost-like, vanishing into the fog only to strike again when least expected. They came to understand that American innovation was not just about building better tanks. It was about creating something entirely different. A weapon system that moved too swiftly for traditional tactics, training, or even their powerful turrets to effectively counter. The M18 Hellcat, with its daring speed of 55 miles per hour, remains a testament to American audacity and ingenuity in warfare. It stands as irrefutable evidence that in the realm of combat, speed can be the ultimate weapon. By the time German tank crews realized the extent of the Hellcat's capabilities, it was often already too late, its swiftness turning the tide of battle before they could react. The outcome of such engagements was not just decided on the battlefield, but was also shaped in the realm of imagination, where American engineers dared to gamble, trading heavy armor for velocity, crafting a predator that overwhelmed opponents with motion, rather than, the phrase succinct as it may appear, hints at a narrative where the roles of pursuers and pursued become intriguingly intertwined. It evokes a scenario in which the very forces or entities initially tasked with tracking and capturing are themselves being targeted by something more elusive or formidable. In such a context, the hunters are no longer the predators but instead become the prey, hunted down by a force that perhaps they underestimated or failed to recognize. This reversal of roles creates an atmosphere layered with tension and mystery, implying that the entity or influence responsible for the pursuit possesses a power that extends beyond conventional understanding. It suggests that the hunted, once considered the vulnerable, have transformed into the hunters themselves, perhaps through cunning, unexpected resources, or a sudden shift in circumstances, thus turning the tables in a dramatic and unpredictable fashion. Ultimately, this phrase encapsulates a profound and often unsettling theme, that those who seek to hunt others may, in turn, find themselves under threat from an unforeseen force, revealing the fragile nature of perceived dominance and control in a complex, ongoing struggle.